What are you doing out here? What are you doing? What are you doing out here? Hey. Hey. Look here. Look here.
Hey, it's Monday.
Oh.
That means we're live again.
Oh no. Oh boy. Oh, there's.
It's another art stream. You may see some activity in the background. That's because we have a new family member.
Hey, Max.
Everybody say hello to Max. Maximus. Hi, Maximus. Hi. Hi, buddy.
Hey. Hello. Okay.
Okay.
Goodbye.
Bye, Maximus. All right. I'm excited for today. Today we are working on a fan fiction scene. This is something that's running around in my head. This is kind of how I would like to see things go if I was writing this particular podcast. This is based on a podcast that I love to listen to, one called Dungeons and Daddies. And actually, it's the podcast that got me listening to podcasts in the first place. I was never a podcast guy. Like, ever since the beginning of podcasting, I've just been kind of like, why would I want to listen to other people talking about stuff I'm not interested in and stuff like that? But then a friend of mine introduced me to the first season of Dungeons and Daddies right at the beginning of the pandemic. And then I started listening and, yeah, and so I started listening to the first season of Dungeons and Daddies and got hooked immediately. The first episode had me rolling on the floor, which is not really a good thing when you're at work listening to the podcast. But yeah, so it had me laughing hysterically. I loved it. I've loved it since the first episode. And plus, it was the guys from Rocket Jump. And I had watched Rocket Jump on YouTube several years ago, and then, you know, it kind of disappeared, and I was very sad and lonely, and just jonesing for a Rocket Jump fix. Yeah. But then I found Dungeons and Daddies, and everything's cool again. So, if you haven't listened to it, if you like, well, let's see. It is kind of a D&D podcast, but it's not really a D&D podcast, but it is kind of, sort of, maybe. It is definitely not a BDSM podcast, except maybe for just a few episodes. But still, it's a really fun podcast to listen to. I highly recommend it. So this is a scene that will take place in the current timeline for the show, with some of the characters from the current timeline. Again, this is not canon. This is not anything into it. It's just my imagination going wild. So we're gonna ink this over. I've already done the word balloons and stuff for this, so I'm not gonna show those to you because they do contain some words that I'm not gonna put in on my stream. So, but if you want to see the finished artwork with the word balloons and everything like that, then I highly recommend that you go to the Dungeons and Daddies Patreon page, subscribe through Patreon, because it is worth it for the extra content. Believe me, it is worth it for the extra content. The extra content alone is just incredible. But definitely check it out. Hit up their Patreon, get on their Discord server. The final artwork will be on their Discord server. I'll put it on my Discord server, and I will put up the final artwork. Yeah, it'll probably stay on my Discord server. But anyways, so that will be it. We're going to jump in to inking. I've already penciled the panels. I've already done some tweaking and adjusting. We may do a little bit more tweaking and adjusting as we go into the inks. I've already set up my layers. We're in Clip Studio Paint. I've already set up my inking layers for each of the panels. That way we're not, having to go through that here on stream. So let's go ahead and jump into it with this first panel up here. And I'm going to give myself some extra space here by closing out these panels. And just kind of adjust its position. Kind of zoom in a little. Readjust. and we'll get going. So my ink layers are going to be vector layers. And we'll go over to our trusty rusty nib. And let's see, what are we going to use? We'll use the Tokyo brush pen. Let's try this, shall we? And actually, I'm going to zoom in on this guy here. And we'll get going. So, one of the things I was happy to discover last night. Sorry, let me adjust here because I'm going to get pretty close to this screen. So, one of the things I was hanging out on the Dungeons and Daddies Discord server last night, and I don't quite know how I found it or found out about it, but Anthony and Ashley Birch were doing some videos when they were younger called What You Playing, Ashley, or something along that line. And so I gave those a try last night, and they were pretty funny. I have to admit, they were pretty funny. Clearly early in their career, but really funny stuff. So, and that was kind of a joy to find. And then I discovered that there are animatics for Dungeons and Daddies out there. People making animatics. Because one thing about this particular podcast, it lends itself very well to animation, I think. I think at some point, some Netflix exec is gonna get wise and realize there's a series here. And there's a definite audience for it. So they need to go ahead and get that ball rolling. And get that on air. Because I'd watch it. That's for sure. Get our villain of the piece here. I'm going to take this brush down a little bit more. Take it down to 25. Oh, there's Sadie Sue, our other dog, making comments. She's not real happy right now. She's not traditionally a sharer. Not particularly happy about having to share her family with this new upstart young puppy that's come into our lives. But she'll adjust. She'll learn.
Are you talking about our kid or the dog?
Our dog. The dog. I'm talking about Sadie, the dog.
Yeah.
No, our child loves having the new dog.
For now.
For now.
Or are you getting it?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, well,
I mean, you know,
it's a control thing.
It's a kid.
She's learning that you don't really control animals. You teach them. Try to teach them. So, hey, Mike, thanks for watching. Mike Lyons, best RA in any college anywhere. So, hey, buddy, how you doing today? Thanks for joining us. And really, honestly, just a hell of a guy. Amazing guy. So let's get his hoodie here. One thing I've noticed about these rusty nib brushes is that there's a bit of
Bad news. Sorry, that scared me. Where's the phone? You really need to probably pick him up. Oh, that's a baby for you.
I know, but he was.
I know that. But it's gonna take.
it.
Take.
So
And be okay. Okay.
where was I? Oh yeah, the rusty nibs. There's a certain level of transparency to the brushes, so they're not fully opaque. I think that's right. Hey, John Oran! What's up, John? Thank you for joining us today. Appreciate it. How are you doing in the wonderful state of Colorado? That is where you are right now, right? Colorado? You're not off traveling some far off part of the country, are you? So, man, I gotta get back to Colorado at some point just for a visit. I love Colorado. Absolutely one of the most beautiful states in the Union. Again, one of those things, if you've never been there, make a point of going. You will love it.
Max, no.
So,
I know you're trying to play. She wasn't running because she wanted to.
so we are dealing with puppy issues today. Our older dog is not real thrilled with the younger dog being here. The younger dog wants to play. The older dog, not so much. Where was I? Colorado, yes. If you have not been, you absolutely should go. Because it is one of the most beautiful spots on the planet. Rocky Mountain National Park. Ahem! Streaming. Hey. That's a lot of loud banging when you run. So,
You can do it. Y'all can do it.
So, personally, I'm a fan of Rocky Mountain National Park. I lived for several years in Colorado Springs. And I love the Garden of the Gods area. It's an absolute must-see area if you have not been. So, and everyone should experience at least once the beautiful fragrances of Greeley, Colorado. If you are from the west side of Bakersfield, you have probably already experienced these aromas. Bakersfield, California. But if not, you should avail yourself of Greeley. Because it truly is an olfactory cornucopia. Cornucopia? Is that right? Well, maybe not cornucopia. That would imply that there are a lot of varied smells, and that is just not the case. It's actually one particular odor that, quite frankly, defies description, but is nonetheless amazing. I'm bagging a little bit here, but I actually like Greeley quite a lot. It's actually a pretty town, or at least it was. Last time I mean, it's been 25 years since I've been there. But I had fun in Greeley. It's a college town. But it was fun. Okay. Said I'm doing a little bit of tweaking here as I go. Kind of repositioning the thumb here a little bit. Okay. And so to kind of, I want to fill you in on who these characters are that I'm drawing, but I also don't, because if you decide to go and listen to the podcast, I don't want to give anything away. So in that respect, I am not going to tell you who any of these characters are, because I'm going to definitely encourage you to listen to the podcast to figure it out. If you don't want to figure it out, if you really just don't want to listen to the podcast, then when I post it on my Discord, you'll hear. I'll put a little bit of an explanation for it, as to who they are and why this particular scene. So come back over here. Actually, I'm gonna do a little bit of erasing here. Bring this out a little bit. Okay, and this particular character is where most of the cleanup's going to need to take place, because this is just a really rough sketch. I probably should have gone in and cleaned up the pencils a little bit more. Oh, dang puppy. You don't usually lay there. What are you laying there for? Almost got hit in the snoot. So, draw this character's other hand. We might actually do this part several times. It just kind of depends on how it goes. So let's get rid of that line right there. So, hey, Mark, how you doing, buddy? Mark V. Hill, another Colorado native. So, talented individual. Really, honestly, all the V. Hills are really talented guys. So, just probably actually, honestly, and until recently, I just found out his dad was actually extremely creative as well. Like, I grew up not even realizing that they all got it from their dad, but yeah, each one of them creative in their own way. It's a pretty amazing family. So, Mark, thanks for watching, buddy. So, long before the advent of, honestly, the internet, Mark's brother was one of those guys that his artwork just floored me. And was really inspiring. And somewhat intimidating too, because it was some of that stuff I was just looking at like, I don't think I can do that. I don't think I have the patience to do that. You know? So. Oh. Ultimate Perfection, hello. Yeah, Blue Line. Yeah, I probably should. So thanks for joining us, Ultimate. I appreciate you coming in. So yeah, I need to get back to using Blue Line. I do occasionally, but my eyesight's not what it used to be. And the darker lines sometimes make it easier for me to see, but then lead to things like like not knowing which line is which. So hey, Ultimate, drop me a link for your webcomic, man, so I can go check it out. So kind of curious, like, do you all listen to podcasts? I mean, clearly you oh! I mean, I know I'm late to the game on the podcast thing, so I'm curious as to, you know, what if you do listen to podcasts, what do you listen to? Because now that I'm on the bandwagon per se, now I'm listening to all kinds of things. Like, I've discovered podcasts that are just, to me, are just brilliant. And in some podcasts that I don't like, content wise, I'm not overly like excited about, but like the voice of the narrator keeps me coming back and stuff like Aaron Mahnke, like his lore and Cabinet of Curiosities and stuff like that. I find myself going back to his podcast just for his voice, just because it's kind of one of those soothing, calming kind of okay. So if I'm kind of keyed up and I want to kind of chill out, then I'll go listen to an Aaron Mahnke podcast. Content wise, some of it's interesting. I think to me, lore is pretty interesting, but it feels repetitive at times. And then right now he's remastering a bunch of stuff, and it's all stuff that I've listened to, and I don't really care to listen to it again. It's like one of those things where I'm like, yeah, once is enough. I want the voice, but I don't necessarily want the same content. You know? So, and then I listened to his Bridgewater, which is actually fiction, but based off, like, kind of based off some of the stuff he talks about in lore. Which takes place in the Bridgewater Triangle area of Massachusetts, which is not all that far from where I lived when I lived in Massachusetts. I mean, it's not close, but it's not like the farthest reaches of Massachusetts from where I lived. And it actually got me thinking, because I used to have these reoccurring nightmares when I was a kid. Right around, and they started right around the time we were living in Massachusetts. And it got me to wondering if the dreams were influenced by the stories we were hearing about the Bridgewater area, because it was the 1970s. And And Bridgewater wasn't that far. There was stuff going on. There were stuff coming out of Bridgewater area. So I'm almost positive like my parents might have been talking about it as just kind of a passing, oh, did you hear about this? Blah, 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 what have you. And I kind of wonder now if some of those stories influenced that nightmare, because I mean, I would have only been about 4 or 5 at the time. So could very easily have influenced. And I had that dream for years, like well into my late teens. I was having these nightmares. But it did make me curious as to whether maybe some of the stories that were coming out at the time influenced the dream. It was just one of those things that I'm just curious about it. Like, because it wasn't until I listened to Lore and Bridgewater that thought even occurred to me that, oh, hey, I bet this may have been an influence, Just one of those things that makes you go, I wonder. I wonder. So, had an interesting week last week. We actually streamed the first time some screenwriting. So I'm not sure how exciting a content that really is for folks. But if you're interested in screenwriting, it might be interested to you. But because I also dabble in screenwriting. Really, honestly, anything that's kind of a creative endeavor is of interest to me. I've done sculpting. I'm not good at sculpting, but I've done it. I've tried it. I tried it in junior high. We actually had a sculpting class that was taught in junior high, which was kind of cool, actually. But I tried very hard to make a bust, I was probably, going well beyond my skill level in attempting a bust. But I tried, and my end result was a blob of clay, multicolored clay. Mind you, I used 2 different clays for it. So I used a grayish white clay and a dark reddish clay to make the bust. And what I ended up with was a big lump that looked vaguely like Colonel Sanders from Kentucky Fried Chicken. Which was kind of cool and would have been cool if it had survived the firing process. But because it was so big and I had not worked all the air out of it, I don't know how many of you have ever done or fired clay before. But if there are air pockets in the clay, they will work themselves out during the firing process. And if it's big enough, it will work itself out with explosive results. And it did work itself out with explosive results. And several of my classmates lost their projects. And that was the end of my sculpting career. And, you know, probably for the best. So don't get me wrong, it was fun. I'd try it again. I'd probably even attempt to do the bust again, too. I shouldn't, but I probably would, knowing me. So, it might be fun to try again. But I pretty much like all kinds of creative endeavors. I'm particularly fond of video editing. I like video editing. Clearly I like illustration. Right now, I'm getting into digital painting through a program called Rebel. I think that's how you say it. I don't think it's Rebel. And I'm using version 5. So, and if you hit my Facebook page, you'll see some of the artwork from that this morning. Like I posted one this morning. I posted some last week. I've kind of gotten into this thing about getting up early and actually doing a quick speed paint before I go to work in the morning. And I've kind of liked some of the results that I've gotten with it. A lot of experimentation with the watercolor and the watercolor physics in the program because it simulates paint. I haven't quite mastered how to kind of get that side brush motion with it. Like you can in real life. Like how would you, like when you're painting and you turn the brush to the side and maybe give it a little twist. So I haven't figured out how to do that yet digitally. So, but it's been fun to paint with, and it's kind of cool because you can kind of control the physics, some of the physics that you would like normally have to take your canvas and turn your like you can control the flow of the paint. In real life, you control the flow of the paint by turning the canvas and letting gravity do its thing. But in this, you alter where gravity is, and let it influence the paint on the canvas. And that's kind of fun. It can have some fun effects. And then, of course, you have all your different layer settings like overlay or screen or multiply and stuff like that, which can give you some really interesting effects. And I know, I'm not sure if it still is, but I know at least a couple of weeks ago, Rebel 5 was on sale because Rebel 6 was coming out. So you might be able, if you're interested in that kind of thing, you might be able to find a copy for relatively cheap. So if it's something you want to play with, definitely check it out. So tighten that line up a little bit. Some depth here. I'm going to back out and take a look and see what I've got. I think that's it for this panel. This feels a little bare up here, but so yeah, stop saying so much. Get this going here. Just add. Help separate this out a little bit. Back out again, turn the pencils off. Actually worked better than I thought. So, kind of like where that is right now. So, should I add? I'm going to add some shadow. I'm going to use some chart fill to add some shadow and stuff to this later. I'm going to do some stuff, maybe some minor tweaking. I may pull this in. Well, now I'll do this like I may actually do this like a couple different ways. I may do this sort of the Clip Studio, flat paint / cell shade kind of style, and then I may take it into Rebel and do a painted version of it, and then do a craft tone version of it, and then kind of just pop all three up and see the differences and see what I like more. But as far as the inking on that first panel goes, I think we're going to be okay right there. So maybe just kind of play with this line weight down here a little bit. Just add a little more weight. That. I think we're good on this panel. So we will move on. So make sure I'm on my inks layer. Very important. Make sure you're on the correct layer. Otherwise, you might end up doing it all again. Which happens. Last night I had something very unfortunate happen. So I was working on a piece. Let's see if I can bring it up and show it to you. So I'm going to bring this down and just pop it in and show you guys. So I was working on this last night. I did all the inks. And then I posted this and I didn't double check my save. So when I went to shut down the program, I thought I had already saved it with the inks. I had not. I shut down the program, I shut down the piece, and it erased all the ink work that I had done. So like this JPEG is the only version of this ink that you'll see. It's back to pencils right now. So I will actually end up having to re-ink that in the future, but that's okay. It'll give me a chance to try some different things with it. So I'm not too bummed about it. I did save it as a JPEG, so at least I have a version of it. And that, by the way, is season 1 characters from Dungeons and Daddies. So the original 4 daddies. So yeah. Onward and upward. So for this, let's see. Got my brush. Hey, Ultimate, are you using Clip Studio? Are you traditional? Both? Are you using Photoshop? There's still a lot of people using... Not that this is surprising. I mean, Photoshop is industry standard. Clip Studio is rapidly gaining on that standard, I think. But just curious, for your webcomic, are you all digital art? The thing I really love about digital is it saves lots of money. Long term. Short term, it's expensive. Long term, it saves you money. I mean, there are some techniques and stuff that you know, may take a while to figure out or simulate, and it'll never really truly replace hand-drawn art, because there's just something about hand-drawn art that just can't be like fully duplicated in digital. So Some more weight to these exterior lines. Then add a little more weight here. Just to make sure these pop against everything else. Because this is going to be such a small panel. It'd be easier for things design-wise to get lost. So make sure we got plenty of that. Get some action going here. These lines cutting across. And I've got the lettering in there. I've got the lettering in there just kind of as just a note where it's going to go. I'll actually do all the lettering in Affinity Designer. Mostly because Clip Studio right now still does not have text on a line. Or at least my version. I don't know if they've done that with the 2.0 version. They might have. I have not switched over to 2.0 yet because I am not crazy with the idea of subscription. And I don't know yet if I switch over to 2.0 if I'm going to automatically have to switch over to subscription at some point. If I stay on 1.0, I won't get any updates, but I won't also be on a subscription model. And I'm really not on the whole subscription bandwagon. There's too many subscription services out there nowadays. And I understand why companies are doing it. I do. I understand. But I also understand that my pocketbook can't do that anymore. Not in this economy. So, subscription services are getting canceled. At least some of them. Like I said, we do a little adjusting on the I don't like that line. So we're going to get rid of this one. Again, the beauty of digital is it's easier to make changes. So if you need to. And that is something I definitely like. So get her hair going here. Let's kind of zoom in here because we got some lines to erase. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, Par, getting ready for her stream. Check them out at this place. I can get rid of that now. Show Enough Studios. She also streams an art stream every Monday starting at noon. I highly recommend checking out that. So let's back out again, kind of see where we are. I need to do this part. Okay, let's see. And we may go back up to that first panel to kind of deal with her hair a little bit in that first panel. Facebook's running a little bit behind this morning on the notifications. Okay, we're going to back out and turn off the pencils and kind of see where we're at. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I kind of like that. Yeah, let's go back up to that first panel. We kind of go back to her hair. And we're just going to ink in some of this. And I'm going to leave a strip there that's going to be a different color. And then okay. We've got that. So moving on to frame number 3. Where we get our first good look at the bad guy's face. So let's zoom in here, get a good look at this panel. Let's see here. Hey, Sketty Biscuit, thank you for following today. Tank Cubage, thank you for giving us a follow. So I forgot one more. Who else do I got here now? I know there's somebody else I'm forgetting. So let me look at the feed here. Case, yeah. Well, I won't say the full name, but thank you for following. I appreciate it. Queso, you know who I'm talking about. So, thank you all for following. If you like the content you're seeing, give us a like, give us a follow. Think about subscribing. Subscribing helps us bring you the content. So, it helps keep the lights on. It helps keep the computer powered up. So, lets me keep making artwork. So, and I don't know if I've discussed this, but, and some of you may have seen some references to this, but I joined Regiment, which is veteran streamers who we basically do charity streams and things of that nature. And it's veterans helping veterans. And we will be doing fundraiser for Stack Up, which unfortunately I am not an expert on Stack Up yet. I will be shortly. Again, another veteran aid group. that helps veterans with PTSD. So we will be doing some charity streaming in the very near future. I had thought about doing it for my birthday, but I just couldn't pull it together in that short amount of time between my joining and my birthday. So it will be coming shortly, though. I'll make an announcement as to when it's going to be. I'm going to be doing probably, I haven't fully fleshed out all the details on it yet, but I'll probably be doing a 24-hour art stream in which I will actually write, pencil, ink, and color a story in that 24-hour time frame. And it will be related to Regiment and Stack Up. I'm not quite sure just how the story is going to go yet. I'm kind of curious to get a like an actual true story. I want to see if maybe some regiment members wouldn't mind putting their story out. I'm going to talk to some other streamers that I know, see if I can't get them to come on during the 24-hour stream and maybe help me stay awake during the 24 hours. By just kind of talking and chatting. And so we'll have some chat going on during the stream. That's the plan anyways. I don't like the way that looks. Let's bump that up a little bit. That's too short over there. So that will be coming in the near future. Maybe later this month. This is a busy month at work. So I don't know that my work schedule is necessarily going to permit for it in April. If not, then we will move it to May. Although May is going to be kind of a busy month for us. We have my daughter's graduation. And her boyfriend's. Coming up in May. And then the normal work events that come up. So I'm not 100% certain yet that may work out. I really do think I want to try to get it going here in April. So I'm hoping you all will join me for that. I mean, don't feel like you have to join for the entire 24 hours, although that would be pretty amazing if you did. But I'll have a link where you'll be able to donate to Stack Up from my page. And of course, we'll be multi-streaming it, so we'll be streaming on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Kick. So please join us for that. It's a good cause. You'll end up helping a bunch of folks. So I will give you more details as I work them out. But that is coming down the road. Not far down the road. It'll be happening pretty quick, actually, but it'll be interesting for me because I'm old. Staying up for 24 hours is really hard these days. It's not like the old days when I could do it without even thinking about it. But yeah, I just don't have that kind of capacity anymore. So it will be a difficult slog. But like I said, it's a good cause, so I'm willing to embrace the suck, as it were. If it'll help out. And really, that's why we're doing it. We're trying to help out. I don't like where that's going, so we're gonna trim this a bit and bring this down from here. Bring this up a little bit. That looks a little bit better. Okay. Get the ripped clothing from around his severed appendage. And a couple of globs of oops. Bring this over a little bit. Various viscous fluids. So, I'm curious, who are some of your all's favorite artists? And do you have an artist that at one time you hated, but now you actually like their artwork? Like, for me, that would be Keith Giffen. Like, when I was a kid, I hated his artwork, couldn't stand it. But as I've gotten older, I've gotten a better appreciation for it. So, I used to hate the way he would draw, like, people's breath when it's cold out, or blood or whatever. It just rubbed me the wrong way for whatever reason. I just didn't like it. But I definitely have a better appreciation for his artwork nowadays. But I think that maybe just in general or in whole, I appreciate the artwork way more of a lot of artists. I'm just curious if you all have any that you were just kind of like, I can't do that. No. So. Alrighty. I can't forget his eyebrows. I'm going to turn off the pencils here and try to find areas. So I need to back out a little bit so I can see the whole thing. Alrighty. We're going at a pretty good clip this morning, I think. So let's move on to the next frame. And let's move this over. I'm going to zoom in. And for this, I'm going to bring this down to a 20, I think, in terms of line weight. Just because, again, this is going to be one of those panels that's so small. That'll be easy for the line art to get lost. And this, we're gonna definitely ink in around the eyes. Get this big old handlebar mustache going. Fill this in here. Trying to think if there are any other creators that I couldn't stand as a kid, but nowadays I actually really like their artwork. Can't really think of anybody offhand. Maybe Jim Aparo, but Aparo was one of those guys that, like, most of the time I absolutely loved his stuff, but there were like individual panels and stuff where I would just be like, no, that just doesn't look right. And it wasn't necessarily something that I would have been able to like verbalize, or certainly not necessarily have the right to judge it, because like the dude could outdraw me 9 days from Sunday. But I mean, he was a pretty amazing artist, which is why he was on Batman for so long. There were just every once in a while there was like a panel that he would draw that I'd just be like, no. So let's get around his eye here. Okay. Come down and do his tattered hood. Get his hand in here. Let's get rid of that. This is where having this pencils done in blue would be a big help. Like Ultimate Perfection was saying earlier. Because when you get sketchy art like this, it can get confusing quick as to what line is what. Oh. With that, we're going to take a brief pause so I can stretch out a little bit here. So stick with us. I will be right back. Okay, we're back. So let me just take a swig of my pink drink. Make sure I'm hydrated. And let's continue. Okay. Let's get his very sort of 80s vest in here. Sort of 80s Marty McFly outdoor vest. I get some blood staining here. Get his sleeve. With the fragments of torn sleeve. Okay. I'm going to turn off the pencils here for just a second, get me a good look at this guy. Put our pencils back on. And we'll go ahead and attack this foreground object right here. For this, I'm going to pump up this weight back to 25. And erase that right there. Bring this down. Okay. And I just put that last squiggly line in there because that's going to denote where I put the sort of texture panel or the fill. You'll see when I get to it. That's just going to help me identify where it goes. Now, for her, get back to the brush. I'm going to bring that weight down to about a 15. Sorry about that. My headphones are scraping against my microphone. I'll go ahead and kind of fill in her hair here. I think. No! That was not what I wanted to do. Okay. Okay. Bring this down. Okay. Get some of these lines closed off. Let's head back here. Down. Let's back out. Turn the pencils off again. See if we've missed any. Oh yeah, missed a little bit here. Right there. I'm just gonna some of that. Just to add some depth to it. I give the sense that she's backed up to a wall. All right. I think we're gonna add a little more weight to this line here, just to help separate it from that background image a little more. All right, let's back out and take another look. And no. think. I don't like this hand. Oh, nope, nope, nope. Really don't like that hand. It just doesn't look right to me. So okay. Okay. I think that's better. Maybe add a little more weight to this right here. And this is how it goes sometimes. You go out, you look, you come back, decide you don't like something, come back, kind of define it a little more. Yeah. Okay. And now on to the coup de grace. The reveal. For this, I'm going to adjust angle a little bit because I draw better at a specific. I think I've not adjusted this head, so I'm going to go down to the pencil layer, grab my selection tool. I was playing around with this a little bit last night. I'm going to use the mesh transformation tool because I feel like it's just a bit, you know, wonky. That gets a little closer to what I'm looking for. All right, so let's grab our brush. Make sure we're back on the inks layer. And we'll go from here. And getting back to talking about the podcasts, I've discovered some very cool ones. And thankfully, Dungeons and Daddies has actually helped me find some very cool podcasts, like Hello from the Magic Tavern. Would never have known about that if it wasn't for Dungeons and Daddies, which is another really good one. Comedy set in a fantasy type vein. That one's been running for quite a while. Actually, I'm not sure if it's still making episodes or not, but very good podcast. I have to say, I tried Adventure Zone, didn't really care for it. I tried Critical Role. I didn't really care for that either. I'm gonna bring this. In just a hair. Get this mustache going. Fill this in and excuse me just 1 second while I let the dog out. I'll be right back. What's that? Yeah. Okay, let's get back here and finish up with our inking today. Get our protagonist here. Protagonist. Oh my gosh. The older I get, the worse my English skills get.
Hey, look, give me a round of applause and we'll party outside.
Good job, Maximus.
I will party outside.
Oh, sorry about that. Okay. I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm not gonna lie. I'm excited about this panel. I'm excited about this page. All right, back out. Make sure that forehead's not. He's like the leader. Okay, we're gonna fix that. Okay. Now he's a flathead. That's okay. That'll work. Because we still got to add a few more. And hair for his comb over. And back out here a little bit. Readjust. Okay. Ooh, podcast. Where were we? Podcast. So yes. Sorry about that. Get lost in the drawing sometimes. What are some other good ones I've listened to? History That Doesn't Suck. If you're a history fan, History That Doesn't Suck is a really good one. Let's see, what else have I been listening to? The British History podcast is absolutely one of my favorites. I think that's a brilliantly produced series. And if you're into British history, which I am, very interesting to listen to. And entertaining. Very entertaining to listen to, too. I'm really going to be looking forward to that one when they get to the early 1800s. The age of fighting sail. The last days of England's dominance of the oceans. I think that'll be really interesting. So, what do you all like to listen to? Any of you listen to podcasts? Are you just strictly music? I prefer, oddly enough, I prefer spoken word to music. Which I think is a little bit odd. Don't get me wrong, I like my music. I love to listen to music while I'm drawing. It definitely helps. I tend to listen to like soundtracks and stuff like that when I draw. I don't do it here because I don't have the rights to use the music that I like to listen to when I draw. So, but I like putting on a good John Williams or Danny Elfman soundtrack when I draw. For me, it definitely helps. All right, let's back out here, and I'm going to turn the pencils off real quick. And we've got our protagonist. Oof. Okay, I'm going to increase that line weight on the outside. So they drew all that with a 15. I'm going to bump that up to a 25. Redo these outside lines. Stick out some. I really enjoyed the last couple streams doing like full pages as opposed to just like a pinup. Something that actually has a little bit of a story to it. I mean, not that pinups can't tell a story, but... And don't get me wrong, pinups are fun. But it's been interesting trying to challenge myself to do full pages of artwork. It's been a very long time since I've done full completed pages. And I think it's good as a lead up to the charity stream that I'm going to do. To do a full 24 hours, I think. And to complete a story in that 24 hours. So, and I'm toying with the idea of printing the comic and making that the award for, you know, like the 10 highest contributors. You know, so the highest donations would get their own personal copy of it. Okay, I think we need that line. And this one, short. Let's go back here. All right, reduce this down to 15 again. And come back in here and do some of this background. You'll notice the other frames don't really have background. And honestly, not much of my artwork does have background. It's one of those things I need to definitely work on. probably the thing I liked least doing artwork is working on backgrounds. Which is why I was glad I had the roommate I did in college, because he loved doing the backgrounds. Well, I think he loved it. I don't know if he actually loved it. I just know he was willing to do it. So that's how I got around doing backgrounds in college. As my roommate and I would put out, I guess you'd call it a zine. It was really more like a 60s style zine. I hesitate to call it a fanzine, but it really wasn't a fanzine. They were all original stories, usually inspired by whatever we were watching or listening to. So you'll find a lot of like Hunter S. Thompson references through it. A lot of Gonzo-esque writing. Because that's what we were into at the time. My college roommate was actually the guy that introduced me to Hunter Thompson. Which, if you haven't read any of his work, I would recommend Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas and Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail. Hells Angels was pretty good too. I never finished it. I need to go back and finish that one. But the father of gonzo journalism. So let's see if I can do something a little more. Let's see what kind of other brushes I have here. Let's try this one. This might work, or it might not. We'll see. Take it down to 100. And let's back out. And let's turn the pencils off. Need some stuff up there. Alrighty, let's back out. kind of adjust our page here and take a look at what we have in toto. And there we go. There's our inks. Simple inks, no real heavy blacks, and that's mostly because we're going to be doing some fill layers and color. And I probably should go back and add in some backgrounds. And I think I need to go back to this panel, the first panel, and maybe increase some of that line weight a little bit. But that's gonna be that. So let's save this because that's important. So yeah, let's see. Is there anything else I really think? That's probably going to be it for today. So, thank you for joining the stream. I appreciate you all coming in, giving us a chat. Thank you, Ultimate Perfection, for stopping by. Thank you, John, Mike, Mark, Halo. I appreciate you all. Remember, if you like what you're seeing, please hit the subscribe button. Give us a follow on Facebook. Give us a follow in Kick. So, and then consider subscribing. If you like what you see, it helps us pay the bills. So, we will be back. I'll probably come back later in the week and do just some off the cuff streams, maybe with maybe some updates to the artwork, maybe a little bit of gaming. Saturdays are for gaming. Saturday we'll be streaming games. I'm not exactly sure yet what I'm going to be streaming on Saturday. It might be Warzone. It might be PUBG. I did some PUBG this weekend and really enjoyed it. Found some cool people to play with. Led to some interesting conversations. So we might do that again. So if that's your bag, if you like the gaming streams, join us on Saturdays for that. The rest of the week is pretty much going to be dedicated to art. So that's what we're doing. So thank you once again. I appreciate you all, and we will see you next time.